Stop handing your attitude to whatever happened this morning. A delayed payment does not own your mind. A rude man does not own your temper. A setback does not own your confidence. And yet, every single day, men hand these things away without a fight. One difficult conversation determines the tone of the next 6 hours. One disappointment poisons work that had nothing to do with it. One stranger's conduct decides whether a man will be patient, useful, or bitter for the rest of his day. Then he says, "I had a bad day." No, you had a difficult event. What followed was a matter of government, your government. That is the truth most men never examine. Attitude is not a decoration you place on life when conditions happen to be pleasant. It is the position from which you meet every condition, pleasant or not. You do not control every event that happens to you, but you control far more of your response than you have likely been willing to admit. And that responsibility is uncomfortable because blame is so much easier to carry. Don't. If your attitude belongs to the weather, the market, your employer, or the opinion of strangers, you never have to govern it. You can simply say, "They made me this way today." But the price of that excuse is enormous. You have handed other people authority over your most useful instrument, your own mind. Take it back. MG, a positive mental attitude does not mean smiling at foolishness. It does not mean calling a loss a victory or pretending a weak plan is strong. It means facing fact without surrendering command. If the account is empty, admit it. If the agreement failed, admit it. If you made a poor decision, admit it. Then ask the only question that matters. What attitude gives me the greatest power to improve this? Languor may feel powerful. Often it is only noise. Self-pity may feel justified. It rarely produces a better decision. Fear may feel protective. Often it simply narrows the field until you can see nothing but danger. Your attitude must serve the purpose. That is the standard. Do not ask what you feel like giving the situation. Ask what inner position will help you deal with it intelligently. Picture a man who watches a customer walk away from his offer. One attitude says, "People never appreciate good work." Another attitude asks, "What can I learn from this refusal?" Was the value unclear? Was the timing wrong? Was this simply not the right customer? The event is identical. The mental position is what changes everything that becomes possible afterward. This is why attitude carries real economic value. It shapes judgment. It shapes persistence. It shapes the way other people respond to you before a single word is exchanged. A man who enters a negotiation expecting insult will behave entirely differently from a man who enters composed and alert. A man who expects defeat notices every reason to retreat. A man who expects to find a useful answer simply searches longer. Expectation is not magic. It directs attention. Attention directs conduct. Conduct produces consequence. You must stop treating attitude as something that merely happens to you. Mood may happen. Fatigue may happen. Irritation may rise before you ever invite it. But attitude is larger than the first feeling. Attitude is what you decide to do with that feeling. Peng, you may wake discouraged. Fine. Do not build a philosophy around one discouraged morning. Get dressed. Do the necessary work. Keep the appointment. Speak properly. Often, action repairs what thought alone could never touch. You do not need to feel strong before you behave with strength. Sometimes conduct leads and feeling follows quietly behind it. Okay. You do not need to feel strong before you behave with strength. Sometimes conduct leads and feeling follows quietly behind it. Too many men wait for the proper mood before doing what a proper principle already requires. They say, I will begin when I feel confident. Begin and let confidence follow the evidence you create. They say, I will speak calmly once I am no longer angry. Speak calmly now. Because anger has never once deserved control of your tongue. They say, I will think positively when circumstances improve. Think constructively now so your conduct can help circumstances actually improve. This is not pretending. This is leadership over yourself. And the first man you must learn to lead is the one you meet in private. Private, when no one else is watching. If that man obeys every passing emotion, no public title will ever make him truly powerful. A leader who cannot govern his own attitude will eventually make other people pay for his inner disorder. The office feels it. The home feels it. His decisions carry it silently into every room. One bad meeting becomes impatience with a good employee. One financial worry becomes tension at supper. One piece of unfair criticism becomes suspicion toward everyone who follows it. This is how an unmanaged attitude multiplies its damage far beyond its original size. So, contain the event. If business is difficult, deal with business. Do not make the household carry the market. If one man behaved dishonorably, deal with that man. Do not make every future associate answer for his sins. Attitude begins with proportion. This happened. It matters this much. It requires this response. Then you continue. A disciplined mind gives every event its proper size. An undisciplined mind lets emotion enlarge it without limit. Dad, watch your language closely because language reveals attitude. Before you even notice it slipping, nothing ever works for me. Everyone is against me. I always get the worst opportunity. This is not accurate thinking. It is emotional exaggeration, and exaggeration hands discouragement far more territory than it has earned. No, use precise language. Instead, this deal failed. This man disagreed. This month has been difficult. Now you have facts, and facts can be worked with. A dramatic word it cannot. A man who says, I am ruined, may stop searching entirely. A man who says, I have lost this amount and must rebuild from here, still has a task in front of him. Tasks create movement. Verdicts create paralysis. Choose tasks. This same discipline applies to criticism. Another man's opinion can only steal your attitude if you hand it unrestricted authority. Listen carefully. Perhaps the criticism contains real truth. If it does, use it. If it does not, release it completely. Do not spend 3 days mentally arguing with a sentence that deserves 3 minutes of honest examination. Your attention is far too valuable for that trade. Not everything deserves entry into your mind. Not every insult requires an answer. Not every misunderstanding requires correction. Some things are best handled by conduct and time alone. Your reputation is built from repeated behavior, not from winning every argument you're pulled into. But this is difficult when pride enters the room because pride demands immediate correction. It insists they must understand me now. But ask yourself, why? If the person genuinely matters, explain where explanation actually helps. If the person does not matter, why are you spending your own peace to purchase his approval? That is a poor bargain by any measure. A man carrying a definite purpose cannot afford to rent his attitude out to every passerby who wanders through his day. Purpose must hold priority. Ask yourself plainly, does this deserve energy that belongs to my chief aim? Often, the honest answer will be no. Then return to the work. Return to your preparation. Return to your own standards. This capacity to return is one of the great marks of self command. You will be disturbed. That is simply being human. The goal was never to avoid disturbance entirely. The goal is to shorten the distance between disturbance and return. One man loses an hour to a setback. Another man loses an entire week to the same setback. The event was similar. The recovery was not. Improve your recovery, and you improve everything downstream of it. A man who says, "I am ruined," may stop searching entirely. A man who says, "I have lost this amount and must rebuild or from here," still has a task in front of him. You need a better way of measuring growth than simply asking whether your life looks impressive from the outside. Ask instead whether you handle old problems differently than you once did. That is real evidence. The same criticism arrives, but you no longer collapse beneath it. The same delay appears, but you no longer panic. The same temptation shows up, but you refuse it more quickly than before. Now you know something inside you has genuinely changed. Progress often reveals itself through a different response to a familiar test. Pay close attention to those quiet moments because they prove your earlier effort was never wasted. Lunge. But do not become discouraged when an old weakness reappears uninvited. A man may believe he conquered fear, then meet a larger responsibility and feel that same fear rising again. Of course he does. The stakes changed. Courage at one level does not erase all fear at every level above it. You are simply being asked to practice courage with greater consequence attached to it now. That is development, not regression. You may learn confidence speaking to 10 people and still feel nervous speaking to 1,000. Do not say, "My confidence disappeared." Say, "The field expanded." Then train for the larger field in front of you. This language matters more than it seems. If you interpret every new difficulty as regression, growth becomes emotionally exhausting, and you begin believing you are always starting over from nothing. You are not always starting over. Sometimes you are starting higher. The lesson resembles an old lesson, but you meet it now with more experience, more tools, more memory, and the hard evidence that you survived it before. Use all of that. This is why the road can feel circular when it is actually ascending. You meet fear again, doubt again, discipline again, but each time the context is larger. The circle has quietly become a spiral. Judge it from that angle, not from one narrow glance. There are qualities that require real time because they are being tested against reality itself. Trust requires repeated evidence. Judgment requires consequence. Patience requires waiting through discomfort. You cannot rush. You cannot compress experience beyond what experience actually requires. A fruit pulled too early may reach its size without ever reaching its ripeness. Men can do exactly the same. They obtain position before developing judgment, acquire money before developing stewardship, gain influence before developing restraint. Then the external result quietly outruns the internal man meant to carry it, and that gap is where danger lives. Bands. So do not resent every season of preparation you're moving through right now. Perhaps the delay you are cursing is simply giving your character time to catch up with your ambition. But be careful. Preparation itself can become an excuse if you let it. There is a real difference between being in process and hiding inside process. A man can say, "I am still working on myself," for 10 straight years, while quietly avoiding the very action that would actually develop him. That is not growth. That is postponement dressed in respectable language. And you are always in process, yes, but you must still enter the arena, apply, speak, build, lead, risk, produce. Let reality test what you believe you have already learned. Because development without application remains only theory. Application is what turns theory into character. So do not wait until you feel complete before you begin. You will never feel complete for very long. Begin with the man you already are. Let the work itself reveal the man you must become next. That is how life actually develops a man, not through waiting, but through contact. And once you stop demanding a finished version of yourself, a deeper question becomes unavoidable. If you are always becoming, then who exactly is deciding what you're becoming toward? Because time is not simply passing by you. Time is passing straight through your habits. Every repeated thought, every decision made under pressure, every standard you keep or quietly abandon is shaping the man who will stand in your exact place 5 years from today. That future version of you is not waiting somewhere ahead, fully formed. He is being constructed right now, in this ordinary hour, by choices that feel far too small to matter. That means becoming is never neutral. If you do not consciously choose a direction, circumstance will choose one for you instead. Habit will choose. Fear will choose. Convenience will choose. The opinions of other people will quietly choose on your behalf. And one day, years from now, you may wake up remarkably efficient at living a life you never actually designed. Lads, do not drift into character. Choose it deliberately. The future version of you is not waiting somewhere ahead, fully formed. He is being constructed right now by choices that feel far too small to matter. Ask what qualities your definite purpose actually requires, not what qualities merely sound admirable in general. What does your particular aim demand of you specifically? Choose a few qualities that matter right now, not 20 scattered ones. This is what turns good intentions into organized progress. Instead of exhausting drift, make those qualities practical, not decorative. If you say, I want more courage, name the decision you've been avoiding. If you say, I want greater discipline, name the promise you repeatedly break. A quality becomes real the moment it enters behavior. Do not admire virtues abstractly. Practice them specifically in the decisions sitting in front of you today. This is where identity begins changing through evidence, not affirmation. You do not become disciplined by repeating I am disciplined to yourself. You become disciplined because your conduct starts proving it. Day after unglamorous day. You become reliable because people learn they can predict your word will survive inconvenience. Character is built through repeated proof. Give yourself proof. You arrive when you said you would. You finish what you promised. You speak truth when exaggeration would have been easier. This is why broken promises to yourself are expensive. They teach your own mind that your decisions are temporary. I will begin tomorrow. Tomorrow passes. I will stop this habit. Then you negotiate with it instead. Eventually, your own declarations lose authority over you. Do not allow that erosion. Make fewer promises. Keep more of them. A man with self-trust does not announce 10 reforms at once. He chooses one, makes it real, then moves to the next. This is how inner credibility gets rebuilt. Chanced, do not choose development according to what will make you appear impressive to others. A man may become skilled at speaking in public while avoiding the private discipline he actually needs. Growth can become performance if you're not careful. Ask what weakness is genuinely limiting you, not what weakness would sound impressive to have conquered. Perhaps the next stage requires something ordinary: going to bed earlier, keeping better accounts, listening before speaking. These rarely create a grand story. They can still change a life. Pay attention to your environment because the people around you are always teaching you what to normalize. If everyone in your circle complaints, complaints start sounding reasonable. If everyone abandons commitments when excitement fades, inconsistency starts feeling harmless too. Standards are contagious. Choose your company with real care, not to abandon every imperfect person around you, but because repeated exposure quietly. And this is where becoming demands the death of a familiar excuse. That's just who I am. Whenever a habit causes real damage, that is simply who you have practiced being so far. Practice something else. Temperament exists, but tendencies are not absolute commands. An impatient man can learn restraint. Do not use personality as a prison cell. This should increase your sense of responsibility, not shame. You are not condemned by your current version. You are responsible only for what you keep reinforcing. Shame says, I am defective. Responsibility says, this pattern needs work. One attacks identity, the other directs effort. Turn every vague dissatisfaction into a trainable problem with a shape. I lack confidence in negotiation gives you something to practice. Shape makes action possible. Accurate thinking will save you from trying to rebuild everything at once. You are not a broken machine requiring total reconstruction. You are a living system with strengths, weaknesses, and real potential. Look for leverage. Better sleep improves judgment, patience, and energy all at once. Improve the leverage points, and several weaknesses shrink together. But growth also includes expanding what you're already good at, not merely repairing every flaw. A man can waste years trying to become average at everything, while neglecting the one ability that could make him exceptional. Know your natural advantages. Organize your life around them. Then strengthen only the weaknesses that would otherwise prevent those advantages from producing results. Shame says, I am defective. Irresponsibility says, this pattern needs work. One attacks identity. The other simply directs effort. Eventually, growth asks you to put something down. Not everything that carried you this far deserves to travel with you further. Some habits were useful in one season. Some identities helped you survive. Some fears kept you cautious when you lacked judgment. But a tool that once protected you can become a weight if you refuse to release it after the need has changed. This is why becoming is not only addition, it is subtraction too. You may need to stop proving, stop explaining, stop defending an old version of yourself simply because other people are comfortable with him. You say, this is who I have always been. That sentence can become a prison. Who you have always been is not automatically who you must continue to be. Ask whether the identity still serves the direction. Perhaps you have always been the dependable one who says yes. Good, reliability is valuable. But if saying yes to everything has made you resentful and unavailable for your chief aim, reliability now needs boundaries. Every strength needs proportion. That is maturity. A man often resists subtraction because it feels like loss. He thinks growth should always look like more money, more responsibility, more commitments. But a larger life is not always a more crowded one. Sometimes growth looks like fewer obligations, cleaner priorities, stronger boundaries. That kind of growth can be invisible from outside. Do not confuse quiet with regression. A man who finally stops fighting unnecessary battles may look less ambitious. While becoming far more powerful, he has simply stopped wasting force. This is especially true of old ambitions. A goal can become outdated. You may have wanted recognition because you once felt invisible. Later, you may discover freedom matters more. Allow motives to mature. Do not keep chasing the original symbol after the deeper need has changed. Honor your younger self by learning from him, not by obeying him forever. He made the best decision he could with the knowledge he had. You now possess more evidence. Use it. Undar. But be careful not to confuse development with restlessness. Ask honestly why you want to leave something. Because it no longer serves purpose, or because discipline has simply become uncomfortable. Do not use growth as a respectable excuse for quitting. A man can say, I have outgrown this, when the truth is that this is demanding a version of him he has not yet built. Sometimes the next version is created by staying, sometimes by leaving, knowing which requires freedom from pride, because pride can trap you in both directions. And time itself is a form of subtraction. Every year removes possibilities, not in a hopeless sense, in a clarifying one. You cannot live every life or master every field. A finite life forces selection. Depth requires exclusion. The man you become may no longer fit every association from an earlier stage, and that does not make you superior. It simply means certain patterns have become incompatible. You can change without cruelty. You can say no without contempt. Shind. This matters especially as you outgrow the need to be understood by everyone. Early in development, you explain every decision, seeking approval. Later, you learn some people will understand only after the result appears, and some never will. You stop spending energy on endless explanation. That is not secrecy. It is economy of attention. The more definite your purpose becomes, the less vulnerable it should be to casual opinion. Paminda. Releasing resentment can be one of the hardest forms of subtraction because resentment sometimes feels like strength, a reason to keep pushing. Replace it with purpose instead, and you become cleaner, more deliberate, harder to provoke. The same applies to fear. Fear may have kept you disciplined during hardship, but if conditions improve and fear still controls every decision, it has outlived the danger it was built for. Replace fear with principle. I save because independence matters, not because ruin is at the door. Keep the discipline. Release the panic. Langed, look for what is no longer happening in your life. The argument you did not enter, the impulse you did not obey, the plan you stopped keeping alive out of pride. These absences create space for thought, for relationships, for rest. A crowded life has no reserve, and a bridge built to carry its maximum load every hour will not last as long as one with margins. Neither will you. There is no finished version waiting for you. But there can be a coherent direction. You may never say, I have arrived. You can say, I know what I am practicing. I know what I am releasing. I know what I am trying to serve. That is enough structure for a meaningful life. And that is how becoming remains purposeful instead of restless. There is no finished version waiting for you. But there can be a coherent direction. I know what I am practicing. I know what I am releasing.